What's up, boys? Welcome to another weekly recap and predictions. I know I missed last week. Sorry about that, but we're back on track. I feel like I said every other week I'm going to be more consistent, and then I'm not. But we'll do our best. I'm getting this out, I think, before Tim got out his power rankings and kind of his recap. So hopefully, I'm not stepping on his toes too much. But I know when Tim gets on Korea time, it can be a little bit complicated for him to sync that up. But I'm going to just jump right into kind of the weekly recap here. And it was a crazy week. I think, for this season, it was a very season defining week for a few teams. And then also kind of muddied the water, I think, more than we were expecting, which is great to see. So, first off, just right off the top, Moncton Meerkats took care of Bills Mafia. I don't think there's any real surprises there. I think the biggest surprise was that I was in this matchup for a decent amount of time. I'm sure Kyle won't admit it, but there had to have been a little apprehension there for a little while when some of his guys weren't performing. But overall, I mean, a 32-point victory for Moncton Meerkats, a clean sweep in the first half of the season. That's a truly impressive feat. I been saying it for weeks. I think this team is our top dog right now. It would be really cool to see a fully undefeated season. So I know that's the challenge in the back half. It'll be tough to do, but congrats to Kyle for that one for sure. Where we got a little dicey was in these next three matchups. I think seeing Mr. Ambassador take a big loss to Huge Dicka really put Sergey in the full rebuild mode. It's an uphill battle for Sergey for sure. But something I kind of commend him on doing at this point in the game, as we saw play out this week, Sergey made some big moves and kind of jumped out ahead of I think John. And John also taking the loss this week to trust the process. But both of those teams are now looking seemingly to rebuild. Sergey obviously rebuilding. John maybe still deciding or waiting for the right deal. But Sergey kind of took advantage of the time he had, was able to squeeze out some picks from me and from Huge Dicka as well. Travis gave him some picks as well. So, those have seemingly been impossible to get your hands on. And Sergey paid a big price for a lot of them. So, that might be the move that has to be made, just given the lack of picks. John may be waiting for the expansion managers to come in, try and take advantage of some of those new picks coming into the mix. But yeah, both of these teams, I would say, are now squarely on the rebuild bubble. And especially with Sergey, tons of moves this week. What a fun week. I'm sure Tim will go more in depth into some of this stuff, but really, I think dynasty altering moves. I don't like to speak too much about my team. Obviously, I could do it for hours, but I'm feeling good about actually having some pieces now while not having to give up too many of my at least 2023 picks. Still have that cash. So yeah, feeling good there. Hoping I can make a little noise next year with that. But overall, we're gonna see some moves now, and we're gonna see people figuring out what the future holds. So I alluded to it. Trust the process gets another big win, goes to 5-2. I think that's very important for this team to beat the teams that you should be beating, because with the injuries and with some of the disappointment so far on this team, still a really good team, but one that I think could fall now that we see Travis making that move for the playoffs. I think my pick is trust the process. I know he's got a game in hand on Eve, but I think if anyone's going to fall out, it's probably going to be Tim, just given the injuries that he's dealt with so far. And then finally, Eve taking a big loss, not in the amount of points scored, but just big as far as standings to Brady's third dynasty, who always seems to pull out that victory over Eve when it counts. I know Eve is just dying to get that what do you call it, makeup win or the revenge game, and it didn't happen this week. So we'll have to wait a few more weeks and then maybe in the playoffs. But both of these teams to me are firmly in that playoff mix. I think Eve is just too good on paper with how this team looks week in and week out to not make the playoffs. but of course we'll see. Right now, just as far as standings, he's only got a game up on Travis, so that's kind of the matchup to watch at this point. All right, moving into week 8. Some interesting matchups. Again, just given what went down last week. I'll start off with Full Jerry versus Brady's Third Dynasty. I'm going to go ahead and just call it for Brady's Third Dynasty. John has, obviously, we've talked about it week in and week out. He's dealt with the injury bug again this season, just bad luck. And Brady's Third Dynasty just continues to roll, continues to put up those solid, consistent numbers. This week, I'm looking for a Tom Brady rebound in tonight's game. You know, whether it's he's old or whether it's all the divorce stuff going on, he's looked terrible. That whole offense has looked terrible. I think this is a get right game against Lamar and Baltimore. I could see Tom really turning it up. If John has any chance in this game, I think it's got to be on the back of Gus Edwards. I think he has to have a massive game tonight for John to really have any chance in this matchup. Even with that, though, I'm going to go with Brady's Third Dynasty, who just continues to roll. Okay, looking at Bills Mafia and Mr. Ambassador. Is this the week? I mean, I'm going to call it right now. I'm getting my first win this week. It took Sergey completely demolishing his team in order to give me the opportunity to get a win, but it does look like that should happen this week. Now having Jalen Hurts in my starting lineup, that obviously helps a ton. Kenneth Walker looking like the real deal. That's a big deal for me. Getting DJ Moore, who played really well last week, so hopefully he can just continue that. It's a little bit more of an exciting lineup to see now. I know Sergey's in tear down mode, so now he shifts to hoping some of these young guys break out and continue to rise up in the ranks, and then hoping some of the trade chips have their good games so we can trade them for some valuable assets. Been there all year, buddy. It's not a fun ride, but it can be entertaining, and you definitely pay attention to your guys a little bit more closely. So, long story short, I think Bills Mafia is going to 1-7 this week. Now, I was pretty selective on how I tried to time my move. I always had this in the back of my head. I knew someone would fall out. Secretly hoping it was Sergey, just given that I have his first round pick. But I knew I wanted to be a buyer at some point. So I'm hoping I didn't time it too soon. I tried to plan this out where I get too many wins, not for playoffs or anything, but to not, be in that toilet bowl discussion for those lottery balls. So we'll have to see how that all plays out. But yeah, Bills Mafia is getting the win. Hopefully I can make some noise this year and knock some guys off as well. Okay, next matchup is Trust the Process versus Cup to Canada. This is definitely the matchup of the week, just as far as on paper. I don't know that this one has the most This one is up there, most likely for the most ramifications for our season as well. And it's going to be a close matchup. Both of these teams are really great. I think it really comes down to I've gone back and forth on this one quite a bit. Who I want to see really bust out tonight and who I'm expecting to bust out is Leonard Fournette. Playoff Lenny is going to finally show up. He's not in the playoffs, but for Eve, this is a playoff atmosphere sort of game. Lenny just seems to show up for Eve in those sorts of matchups. So I'm feeling it. I'm feeling a big game for Lenny. I'm feeling a big game for the Bucks tonight. Just kind of a get right. Hopefully, please God, can we at least have a good Thursday night football game? But I think Eve has got the advantage in pretty much all the critical positions. And of course, that's not really Tim's fault. We're dealing with injuries and unfortunate circumstances there. But we're gonna go with Eve in this one. That'll even them up as far as records. And at that point, who does Travis potentially knock out of the playoffs? Like I said earlier, I think it's Tim. But Tim's analytics might say differently, just given that one game in hand that he holds over Eve. So we'll see when Tim releases his video what that looks like. All right, finally, Moncton Meerkats versus Huge Dicka. This one, this is the 1B to the matchup of the week 1A, especially for Huge Dicka. I can't not say the name. Never mind. I'll walk into some stupid pun or something. Anyways, Huge Dicka. I love it. I mean, I called this what 2, 3 weeks ago. I think Huge Dicka is making the push for the playoffs. This is the tough week though. If Huge Dicka manages to pull off the upset, gives Moncton Meerkats their first loss, I think he's a shoe in. Just given what Tim kind of talked about in the chat the other day, he's got some, cakewalk matchups at the end of the year. The juggernauts are going to, pounce all over each other. I think Huge Dicka has what it takes, especially after these moves that have been made, to pull this one off, which who would have ever thought at the beginning of the year that we'd be talking about it? But it does make the league more fun. So we'll have to just keep an eye on that. I know Tim's willing Eve to be the one to fall out of playoff contention because Tim holds Eve's draft pick. But don't let that fool you. My call is at this point, I think Travis is going to knock Tim out, and that might be biased as well because I just bought Tim's draft pick. So, Travis, don't let me down. I need every one of those lottery tickets I can get. But yeah, we're going Huge Ditka, and hopefully, the commissioner curse hasn't seemed to be as big or prevalent of a thing this year. So hopefully, I don't screw you there. But yeah, Huge Dicka's taking the win this week and giving Moncton Meerkats their first loss. Kyle, I love you, buddy, and I've been all up in your team's business. I'm on the bandwagon. I think you're going to win the league this year, but I want to see this loss, and I hope you can respect that. This would be a great upset, just for the excitement of the league. So I'm still, wearing the Moncton Meerkats hat, but we can lose one. It'd be good for the boys to deal with a loss and overcoming a loss. So this week we're going Bills Mafia getting their first win. Didn't think I'd pick myself at all this year, so that's fun. Brady's Third Dynasty is going to get the win over Full Jerry. Cup to Canada is going to get the win. This one is close, obviously, in predictions. But like we mentioned, sleeper predictions are not very reliable. I don't think this one's as close. Honestly, I think Cup to Canada gets a good size win here. And then Huge Dicka. Hopefully it comes down to the last minute. Hopefully we have a really tight one here. But Huge Dicka is going to take the win. So I'm sure this video ruffled a few feathers. Looks like someone's watching live. That's always a little creepy. So shout out to whoever's watching live. I'm sure it's Travis, if I had to guess. But anyways, that's it for this week's recap and predictions. A good weekend of fantasy football ahead and a great weekend of regular football ahead as well. Everybody enjoy what should be a great Sunday night football game. Feels like it's been a long time since we've had a really good primetime game. So Bills Packers could be a blowout. Go Bills. That's all I got for you boys. Hope everyone has a good rest of your Thursday, and we'll see you next week.